Okay, in Act 2, we get King Alonso and his crew of lords, miraculously washed up on shore in one big group and miraculously completely dry. Alonso is emoing because he thinks his son has been drowned in the wreck. Gonzalo tries to cheer him up, and Antonio and Sebastian makes sarcastic comments about everything. These dudes are actually pretty funny. It's too bad, they're the bad guys. So then, everyone but them has an attack of Ariel-induced narcolepsy. Antonio tries to convince Sebastian to kill his brother while he's sleeping and take his place as king, and they have their swords drawn to do it, when Ariel runs back in shouting, "OMG, wake up, wake up, wake up!" So everybody does. Antonio and Sebastian make up some story about how they heard a lion roaring, and that's why they have their swords out. No, really. And they all set off to look for Ferdinand. Okay. I sort of lied when I said there was only one plot. There's sort of a subplot and involves these two dudes we're about to meet in the next scene. Trinculo, the king's drunken jester, and Stefano, the king's equally drunken butler. These guys do pretty much nothing but drink and make terrible plans. So, of course Shakespeare made them up because no one like that exists in real life. These guys meet up with Caliban, and their first terrible plan is to give him some wine. And it turns out Caliban really likes wine. In fact, he likes wine so much that he decides to forget Prospero and worship these guys as gods. Yeah. Act 3. Prospero has Ferdinand carrying logs, I guess since Caliban never came back and someone has to bring the firewood. But Ferdinand's really chill about it because he's so in love with Miranda. They're cute at each other for a scene, and actually Miranda proposes. Ferdinand accepts, of course, and Prospero, who's been spying on this whole scene, like kind of a creeper, is thrilled. Where was I? Right. Back to Stefano and Trinculo and Caliban, who are now completely trashed. Caliban talks the other two into terrible plan number 2. Kill Prospero and take over the island. Fortunately, Ariel overhears this plot and leads them off into a swamp with some more invisible music. Alonso and company, meanwhile, are still looking for Ferdinand, and this whole tramping about on an island business is starting to wear them out. Prospero sends in a magical banquet, but just as they're about to dig in, down comes Ariel in the form of a harpy and shouts at them about how they're men of sin and how as punishment he has made them crazy. Except Gonzalo, because, he's cool. The three now crazy guys dash off like crazy guys, and Gonzalo goes after them to try to make sure they don't hurt themselves. Act 4! Prospero forgives Ferdinand and gives the young couple his blessing. He gets some spirits in to perform a mask for them, in which the Roman goddesses Iris, Ceres, and Juno appear and bless their marriage. But in the middle of the mask, Prospero remembers that there are drunk guys out to kill him and stops the show. He sends Miranda and Ferdinand away so he can deal with the drunk guys. Stefano and Trinculo and Caliban show up, and Prospero distracts them with shiny things. No, really, he does. Then he sticks spirits on them in the form of dogs who chase them away. Act 5. Prospero brings Alonso and company in, uncrazies them, and forgives them for the usurping thing. He brings in Ferdinand and Miranda, Ariel brings in the mariners and reports that he's fixed the boat, and then goes off and comes back with the drunken trio, who are getting started on the mother of all hangovers. Prospero says he's going to retire from magic, sets Ariel free, and invites everyone into his cave so he can explain the whole thing. Again. And that's the play. Not too difficult. So, how does Shakespeare's last play stack up? Well, that is kind of difficult. The story is... Okay, well, you just heard the story. There's not a whole lot in it. What's really good about The Tempest is the characters and the language. Stefano and Trinculo really are hilarious. Antonio and Sebastian are snarky and fun. I'll admit the lovers are pretty cute without making me want to barf kittens. And Ariel and Caliban are just fascinating. I've seen the relationship between those two and Prospero played so many ways. Sometimes they're fantastical and funny, and sometimes they're really kind of heartbreaking. And the language is late Shakespeare, after he's done everything else, so it is rich. This Shakespeare is a master of language. Except, okay, for all that, The Tempest is not a great play. It's a good play, it's a well-crafted play, but it's not a great play. No, except that that's kind of what makes it cool. Shakespeare just goes, okay guys, here's this form you've all been on my case about not following. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna follow the heck out of it. Take that. And with the huge limitations that puts on the story, he can tell he crafts this thing that when you see it done right, it is so much fun to watch. So, that just leaves the big question. Is Prospero Shakespeare? Is his retirement from magic an echo of Shakespeare's retirement from the theater? Well, maybe. Shakespeare did write a bit after The Tempest in collaborations like The Two Noble Kinsmen, so he didn't retire forever. Plus, it might not even be his last play. The Winter's Tale might have been written at the same time or even a little bit later. And, okay, while it is full of theatrical language and images, which is the main argument for it being a metaphor for theater, so are a lot of Shakespeare's plays. Hamlet, for example, or As You Like It. On the other hand, Prospero is so completely in control of the story that it's really easy to read him as an author figure. And his speech about how he's going to give up magic, and for that matter his epilogue, are so powerful that it's really tempting to read them as Shakespeare's farewell to the theater. So why not read it that way? The best idea we can form about Shakespeare is from reading and watching what he wrote. So if it reads like a farewell speech from Shakespeare to us, well, as far as I'm concerned, it can be. You've been watching One Take Shakespeare. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some waves to catch.